Thanks for tuning in to Prime Sports Speed with Eric Smith from RaceReviewOnline.net as we preview this week's IndyCar Series race, the Rev Group Grand Prix from Road America. So, Eric, we had two races last week from Detroit. I'm sure I completely jinxed everybody in the first race because you went over all of these historical trends about what it takes to win a race in IndyCar Series, where you have to start to win a race.
Yep.
And the first race that we really dive into on this show, because we did the IndyCar 500, but that's something we would do every year anyway. But we would dive into all these trends, and then all the trends just went out the window after the big wreck. That lasted like 10 hours.
It goes to show you how tight IndyCar is, how one caution can just throw the whole thing off, because they don't get many cautions. I mean, these are usually pure quick races, good drivers. You don't see a lot of wrecks, a lot of mistakes. You get a stuck throttle. I mean, it's a fluke thing that happened. You get a wreck because the strategy wise, everything we talked about was coming into play. You had two different strategies, but Rossi and Pato and those guys were on one, and you had Dixon and Power and those guys on another. All of them started near the top 10. So it was like, it was still going to happen. It was just different strategy game. And then a caution happens and it screws the guys that had the best strategy, and the guys that already pitted, it benefits. So that's just, IndyCar is and I talked to some drivers about this over the last few weeks. It's very difficult to win because the field's so stacked. They're quick, impactful races from green to checkered. There's not any room for error. And you also have to get lucky. It is really, it's as hard as ever to get a podium, a top 5 in there, let alone, as we saw this past weekend in both races, you have to have as much luck than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Joseph Newgarden, for example, same thing, a fluky thing. Because of what happened the day before, they pit thinking a caution was going to come out. Because why would you not? Because if you don't pit and a caution comes out, the field's flipped. You're now in the back. So let's just go ahead and we're going to have to pit, and a caution doesn't come out, and it ruins your whole strategy. I mean, I wrote about that, and what race is in the past has happened where the guy has led the 67 of the 70 laps all in a row, and we're talking at the midway point, the guy that was up by 10 seconds says, "Oh, he's a sitting duck. It's not going to happen for him." And the strategy to watch it unfold was intriguing, and it just goes to show the guy that started on the pole, he did nothing wrong, didn't turn a wheel wrong. He was just strategy. And that's where the tire play, that's where we talked about NASCAR. It would be nice to maybe try something like this, because if it was just straight black tires, normal the whole way, he would run away from the thing. You get the alternate strategy. It made it interesting, but it goes to show how a one wrong caution or a caution that's supposed to happen doesn't.
Well, it happened in the 500.
Scott Dixon and Rossi, they get caught out and they're a lap down. So it goes to show IndyCar is as hard as it is as ever to win, and you have to be lucky on the track, you have to be lucky in pit road, and you have to be lucky in the game of luck, because it doesn't matter what you do. You can have a perfect day like Joseph Newgarden had last Sunday, and you still don't win. So, it goes to show there are trends. You do have to play towards the trends, because I asked drivers about
of course you have to. That's what they are. Like, it's not about one race.
How do you plan for this? How do you, you can't. It's a game of luck. Yeah. You have to play by the trends. You have to play by what happens. And if something happens in the middle, it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it. So
I felt really strong with Rossi because I picked him in the first race. I threw like $10 on him at 10-1. I felt really strong. He's coming on again. And then when the caution came out, it just screwed everything for him.
And let's be honest, he was going to win. He was leading that strategy. If that caution doesn't come out, Dixon's got to pit, Power's got to pit, Rossi's in the lead, and he's ahead of Pato. And that's what happens.
Me.
That's IndyCar.
I jinxed it. That's all I can tell you. I don't know.
That's you. It's your fault. But and to roll into this weekend, to keep that theme, this track is a 4-mile track. It's a big track. There's some spaces where the Armco walls are there, bike barriers, but there's a lot of runoff. So you don't see a lot of cautions. You're not going to see a lot of fluke, like it's going to catch you out. I mean, it's a 4-mile track. I mean, trends say since we started coming back here in 16, we've had 3 or fewer cautions every year. I mean, last year's 3 in both races, but before that, 18 and 19 had no cautions, and 16 and 17 had 1 caution and then 2 cautions, respectively. So cautions could be few and far between, which could make this more of a pure race in a standpoint that strategy is going to be hard to play because the track is so big. If somebody gets off course, you might be able to get into the pits before that caution comes out, or they may not ever throw the caution. So trends this race do mean something just because of how big this track is.
All right. Before we get into previewing this week's race, and let's also include, because I'm sure there's a lot of Will Power fans that were saying, well, wait a second, you didn't even mention Will Power, who would have won the race
Sunday
if his engine didn't stall. But that happens too, the engine stalling deal, which doesn't happen in NASCAR. Situation.
No, because they're run on computer systems. Yeah. They found out, I saw a report of what happened, because it was the blame, like, hey, why'd we go red flag? And it's in the rule book. I went and looked. People are questioning, like, well, we never go to red. IndyCar has in the rule book, if they can maintain a green, exciting finish, they're going to. And there's a predetermined lap. They said that they've got in the back of their minds. They talk about it in the driver's meeting that if a caution flies within this window, we will red flag it to ensure a green. So they did what was right. Power was mad. They pulled down pit road, and I get like, hey, we got to cool these systems, because in IndyCar, like we saw with Dixon and Rossi in the 500, when it stops running after it's been hot, it's hard to refire, and they had to recycle it. And it turns out it was all it needed was plugging the computer in to recycle the system, and then that's why he rejoined the field. So it was a fluky thing. It happens. But again, there you go. A guy that did everything right was on the right strategy.
Yeah, and he was the only one.
Yep.
Out of all the other cars.
1 out of 20.
And he happened to be the guy that was dominating the race. It's just weird. Like you said, fluky. Okay. Also, we just want to remind everybody that because we've been getting a lot of positive feedback when we're posting as many press conferences pre-post that we can, and we want to do our best in taking a look at the comments, especially if there's anybody out there that has anything that they want to say or anything that's on their mind that they don't understand. So a couple of comments from this past week. I'm just going to guess how you pronounce his last name is Neidlinger, Anthony Neidlinger. In regards to today's IndyCar race, either NBC or YouTube TV messed up. Missed the portion aired on CNBC. Either YouTube TV didn't pick up on the program change, or NBC didn't bother to send the change. Now I'll have to wait. I'll have to watch the rebroadcast and hope it's okay. It also shows NBC's real level of dedication to Indy. Totally ticked off. And I will say this regarding what Anthony said, because I always tell you guys this now that I'm watching these races, is let me know if there's anything that delays these races like this, because I have so many things I'm recording, and I work even on the weekends and I don't watch races. I don't watch anything live. So it doesn't mean I'm 3 hours late, but sometimes I'm even just a half hour late. And if something happens where there's a broadcast that overlaps, like what happened last week to the IndyCar race, I didn't know how much I missed of the race. I thought I felt pretty good that I didn't miss as much as I thought I was going to miss. I think there were only about 20 laps missed.
It was about halfway.
It was about halfway.
30s. Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead and what did you think about because I didn't know. I wasn't watching live, so I had no idea what was going on CNBC.
It wasn't the provider. I get his frustration, because I was frustrated, just in the sense that, and I get it, the French Open, you're not going to bump it from NBC. I get it's a major in tennis. I don't know a lot about tennis, but the way I worded it, I was just kind of being sarcastic, like, well, they should have moved tennis and left IndyCar alone if you pay that kind of money. And I was getting grilled. People like, oh, this is a major, this is that. And then you see the ratings. IndyCar was right there, viewership with the French Open. It's like, whoa, see?
Yeah, tennis.
IndyCar's still rising. Yeah. Tennis, I think, is a niche thing.
Even the majors are down ratings-wise, because they're still not allowing people into these matches. All the matches are overseas. I don't even remember the last time they played in the United States. They're back at the U.S. Open coming soon. They're talking about still not putting a lot of fans in the stands. Who knows? Maybe they will now because of all the changes. But the fact is that the ratings have gone down the drain for tennis over the last year and a half because of COVID. And look, the match was like 5 hours long. It's
That's the
really
problem.
rare that so I can't blame the network for thinking that a match is going to last 5 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, how do you plan for that? And that's what ended up happening. I mean, it sounded good in theory to have the French Open lead into an IndyCar race on network NBC. I get the planning. You can't plan it, but 5 hours is so long to watch something. So I get the tennis thing. And NBC, where IndyCar, it's 100% not their fault. They kept putting updates. Look, we've got to go to CNBC. And some people were confused because the pre-race was supposed to start at noon and a 12:50 green flag.
Okay.
Well, when you've got to move networks, people have already bought spots. So they're like, well, we can't go here. So they should have went to NBCSN rather than the 50th episode of American Ninja Warrior, whatever it was on.
So what did they do?
They moved them to CNBC.
Okay.
So, but CNBC had infomercial from 12 to 12:30.
So there was no pre-race.
Yeah, so I think people thought by turning to CNBC they'd see something, and it was an infomercial.
And then they turned away from it.
Yes, not knowing at 12:30 the broadcast would start. So they picked it up till the first half until it went to NBC.
Okay.
The easiest fix that I could think of for all of this is they have Peacock, which is a streaming network. Yeah. All their practices and qualifying sessions are housed there. I don't know, and maybe because they don't want to turn people away from NBC or NBCSN that these races would be on, but can't you put them on there? At least live.
Sure.
People have already paid for the subscription, so at least you know, hey, I'm getting the full pre-race. I'm getting the whole race here. If I don't watch it on NBC, it's at least here. That's the easiest fix. If something runs over, hey, it's on Peacock. Sign up for the 7-day free trial if you want to watch it.
There you go.
And then you might like it, and because you get all the, like I said, practice and qualifying is commercial free there. There's no commercials during their sessions, so you could have put the race there, but I think it confused people because it's like, well, wait a minute, what station are we on? And IndyCar was doing a good job of, hey, we're on CNBC at 12:30. Hey, move here. They kept putting out updates. I kept updating, but if you don't have social media, I guess you wouldn't know. I think that's the tricky part of the 21st century. But you could be putting
crawlers all over the place. I mean, can't you just say, this is going to start at this time, or hey, as soon as it starts on CNBC, put it on the crawler on the channel. Now you can turn over to CNBC for the coverage, which has just begun. Stuff like that.
And that's what I can't speak because I obviously wasn't watching the French Open. Was that on that station?
That's true. I don't know.
Because it would be helpful if it said that. If you want to tune into the IndyCar race, tune over here. Yeah. I don't know if it said that. I can't speak to that.
But like you said too, even if you're some sort of that's a great way to not only bring people into Peacock, but bring people into just the coverage itself. You should be having, like, the next time there's a deal because they're looking for a new contract, right?
Correct.
Okay. So put this in the contract that whenever there's these types of delays, people can sign up for free to receive automatic information for anything that happens that pertains to delays, anything. So on their phone, they'll get the information and they'll be able to know what's going on.
Yeah, because IndyCar did, again, if I can see maybe the older crowd that doesn't have the apps on their, because like the IndyCar app would send you push notifications, hey, CNBC 12:30, and then at 12:30, hey, reminder, we're on CNBC. Yeah. And then right before the green flag, hey, engines are fired, tune into CNBC. They were putting it all over their social media. I was sharing it. I mean, it was there, but I get also, if you don't have that, how do you know?
That's true.
And the only other thing would be, did NBC do their right and put it during the French Open? But gauging what NBC just pulled yesterday, probably not, just because the Dodgers wanted to claim they had the largest sporting event crowd in the COVID area. And some NBC reporter and NBC News was reporting this. It's like, you just forget the Indy 500 had almost 100,000 more fans.
Why? What was this? I missed this.
The Dodgers, during their Phillies game 2 nights ago, were
because they opened back up again.
Yes, we're saying this is the 52,000 that are at Dodger Stadium is the largest crowd during the COVID era.
All right.
And NBC Nightly News covered that last night and was talking about that. And people are like, well, NBC literally covered the Indy 500, which had 135.
Yeah, right.
Did you just forget about this
that
already?
doesn't count.
And then they try to spin it like, oh, it's the largest team game. I'm
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
IndyCar is a
Yeah,
well,
right.
we mean a league, and like, well, IndyCar is a league. It's like, come on, NBC. So I wouldn't be shocked if NBC didn't even say anything during the French Open, and some of these
Maybe
fans would
not.
be mad.
Sure.
They probably just. So I get it.
Yeah, they got to
but
do a better job. So.
Just
But
like,
I don't even think it's there. Just there. I've seen it happen on like I'll watch sometimes when they have these golf delays and during the middle of a round, and they'll go to another like a recording of last year.
yes,
They don't always.
they don't tell it. Yeah,
They'll put it up sometimes, and then sometimes they come back from a commercial break, and for 5 minutes there's nothing. So what happens if somebody just tunes in? They're thinking they're watching.
Do you remember
something live.
Fox? Exactly. Remember Fox did that a few years ago. The Daytona 500
Yes,
was a rain
there
delay,
you go.
and they showed the Dale Jr.
Yes.
one that he won,
Uh-huh.
and Fox News literally wrote a story about Dale Jr. winning the Daytona and like pushed it out like that was a rain delay. That's not live, and people were confused.
That's bad.
So yeah, you've really, if you use what you got, it should be simple.
Yeah.
Rain delay coverage from and have the scroll, or on the French Open, hey, if you're here to see the IndyCar race, tune in at CNBC. Like, it's just something simple. But luckily, I don't think we have to worry. It's rare. It doesn't happen that often. But like this weekend, let's say they left a window. Let's say the IndyCar race, a fluke red flag happens and we're delayed again, and the NASCAR race gets pushed back a little bit. They'll tell you, hey, the NASCAR race at Nashville, maybe we'll start on CNBC, or we're delayed. Like, they'll tell you that. Did they do that during the tennis thing? That's what I can't speak of. That's the only thing that would be missing is, but you got to look at the rating though. It was a strong IndyCar races, let's be honest, there used to just be hundreds of thousands of people that would watch these races. They're mid 1 million now. I mean, they're gaining hundreds of thousands. They're doubling their viewership. And I wasn't expecting the way people were talking. Like, how dare you say they moved it? Like, I was almost getting grilled on social media for saying, why don't they just move the French Open? It's going way past the window. And then I see the ratings. I'm like, it's pretty much the same rating. What are you talking about? Like, if I'm NBC and I'm paying IndyCar, I know the contract's up at the end of the year, you might want to maybe put them on network TV. Yeah, because look at the rating going up in tennis. Yeah. I have a feeling 5 years ago, the French Open probably had way higher ratings than an IndyCar race.
Question.
And so you see one going down and one going up. Yep. Which one to me would be more on the rating beneficial on my network? Will be IndyCar over tennis. So I think it was a strong rating for those that did tune in on NBC when it switched over. So, but yeah, this weekend they're on NBCSN. NASCAR is on right after it, so it'd be a good weekend. You don't have to switch a lot. They're on the same.
Double racing action, so you can't go wrong there. Now, Rodney says, thanks again for posting the press conferences. Funny you are doing IndyCar's job. Well, that's okay. We appreciate it. Just don't let anybody know. I love Doug Bowles, but Mr. Penske needs to shake up the top positions. And in parentheses, Mark Miles to start. Time for a change if we want our sport to grow to the next level. We have the teams, drivers, and competition. More people need to discover what they are missing. What does Rodney have a point?
Thanks for the comment, Rodney. I'd say no. And we're not doing IndyCars. Let's be honest. They're sending it to us to use. They send out. IndyCar is doing a good job. We wouldn't have that access without IndyCar. So they're helping out. They're allowing access to be able to send this stuff, to be able to promote what we're doing, the videos, the press conferences. I mean, we
can do the same thing, by the way, with NASCAR, which is what we're going to be doing soon as well. And I just think it's just a way for them to have a bigger audience. I mean, if you restrict it to just their YouTube channel, they're such a big network. They don't really care about their YouTube channel. It's just another way of promoting, but they're not trying to make money off their YouTube channel. Hey, if they can make a few bucks, great. But that's not anywhere near, for us, it's our primary source of income in a lot of ways. So that's a little bit different. And if they could give us a little bit of the piece of that kind of exposure, and it's going to help them out, then more power to us and more power to them.
Exactly. It'd be like the NFL. You got to think of leagues. They're not going to promote some of this stuff. They send it out too. I get what they're saying, like, oh, we're promoting and we're putting press conferences up, but I can't find it in IndyCar. Well, no, they're actually helping us grow. They're helping these sites like, hey, go here to look for we could put it on our site, but let's help. The more coverage, the better. If we house everything on our end, how is that helping media partners? So, and to be full transparent, like, this is what IndyCar does. I mean, for every day that there's on track activity, they email it to you. You get the clips, you get the press conference, you get highlights, you get driver quotes, you get everything you can need. In NASCAR, we're going to start doing it, but the difference is NASCAR doesn't email. NASCAR isn't like, hey, here's the information. Yeah. NASCAR is like, hey, it's here. You got to go find it and save it. IndyCar is like, we'll email it to you. We're going to physically give this to you. So we're not doing their job. They're doing a great job of giving it to us. So I applaud them for that. They're trying their hardest to get this stuff out. So so they're doing that well. Doug Bowles, I fully agree. The dress that he's great. Roger Penske's great. And Mark Miles, when he first got hired, I'll be full honest, I'm like, what are they doing here? Why is he running the show? He was a tennis guy, coincidentally enough. We were talking about tennis. He came from tennis. But you got to look at what IndyCar was when he came and what IndyCar is now. I mean, we're probably talking almost a decade now. I believe it was 2012, 2013. Don't quote me on that, because Randy Bernard was there in 2011. I think he was back in 2012, and Miles might have took over in 2013. But look at where IndyCar was then and look where they are now. I would argue to say they're better shape. And listen to what the drivers are saying. IndyCar is the most toughest, deepest, closest racing series in the world. He's been the guy that's been ahead of that. So I would argue to say he's actually done a good job. And I get some people like, well, because he doesn't want to end the series much past Labor Day weekend. And people like, well, we're racing fans. We used to go to October. NASCAR goes in November. But he's right in this sense. It's like you have to humble yourself. Do you really want – his reasoning is, do we really want to go head-to-head on Sunday afternoons with the NFL?
No.
Why would – it's exact – like, people want to. And, like, you fail to realize a lot of these IndyCar fans – let's be honest. A lot of IndyCar fans are in the Midwest. Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan. A lot of these IndyCar fans in Indiana, if there's a race at noon, 1, 2 o'clock, and there's a Colts game on the 1 o'clock NFL window, they're watching the Colts game. Let's be fully honest. They're going to the Colts game. They're not paying attention to IndyCar, which therefore means your rating for your contract with TV is going to be way down, and that drives money. That brings your value down. So their plan is, let's not go head-to-head. Let's minimize our head-to-head against the NFL. That is the juggernaut, even as they've lost some ratings and attendance and all that in the last few years. They're still so much bigger than IndyCar.
Now is the talk about adding more races or just moving the schedule?
Moving the schedule back and adding some races. So I could see why. And one, here's the thing: Penske too has talked about. We just talked about this with him in the month of May. We had like a scrum in this hospitality unit, and was asked, season tracks, more ovals. They want to add more ovals. They hear you. They're trying. They're working on it. But also, IndyCar's philosophy has been, we don't want to go somewhere where we're not wanted.
Oh, yeah.
We want to make it look like a big event. I mean, you look at IndyCar races pre-COVID, even now after COVID, look at 500. Packed grandstands, packed seats, packed paddock, packed everywhere. Where NASCAR races, let's be honest, you have a 100,000 seat venue, half of it's filled. 50,000 still a great crowd, 60,000. But it looks empty still. You don't want to go. It doesn't have that appeal. IndyCar's philosophy is, let's go to where we could sell out and be near sellout capacity crowds. Let's make it look fun. Where people want to come there, not like, oh, there's nobody there, I don't want to go there. So they only go to spots where it's beneficial for the track and the series. We'll all make money. Look how packed it is. Yep. And their philosophy is always used to be, I know this year we're going to the road course here at Indy twice, is we're like the circus. We come once a year. You come now, or you have to wait a whole year before we're back again.
That's it.
So that's always been, so that's why you see them only go to like a track once a year. It makes it a bigger event. So as far as just adding tracks, you have to go somewhere where they want you to. Yes. It's harder than it seems.
Sort of like bowl games in college football. Like, you can add more, but who wants to watch bowl games when there's like 5,000 people in the stands?
Exactly. It dilutes it. Yeah. So their thought is, they don't want to go past 20 races. They want to be like, hey, 17 to 20 is our sweet spot. So we're really talking about adding 3 races. We can't go too early because you got to go start in the south or southwest. Well, NASCAR's got a stranglehold in Daytona in February. Do you really want to go head-to-head in February in the state of Florida? And if you go out west, where are you going to go that's going to support you? Because we tried Phoenix, we tried Fontana, we tried Sonoma.
So the West Coast
Nobody's
isn't into IndyCar.
Not as much. The Phoenix, they went there, and I would say they were losing money. I mean, there's 10,000 people there. I mean, nobody was going. Yeah. It's just like, hey, we told you if you wanted to stay, come out. Nobody was going. So their philosophy is, if nobody's going to these races, then why would they come now? And if we're going to add a race to start the season, you want it to be a big event. St. Pete's done a great job every year that's been the season open. This year was different because of COVID. Why would we go somewhere different? We can just start in March and we can end in September.
Yeah.
We have a short season. We're in, we're out, we're done. It's a great season.
And it makes you wanting for more, which is what the fans are. That's what Rodney, I want more. All right. Well, that's a good thing. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So I see what he's saying, but yes, Mark Miles has done a great job. Penske's, they're in great hands. Jay Fry is the best guy running the show, competition, development, everything in sports. I love that guy. That dude is, if you wanted guys to lead this country, Penske, Mark Miles, Jay Fry, Doug Bulls. Those are your four. I mean, they are geniuses. They're brilliant guys. Look at IndyCar's direction. It's not in spite of these guys. It's because of these guys. These guys they're everything and above. That's where it surrounds this communications and marketing, everything IndyCar is doing, funneling it through. They've got a plan. They've got a vision that's working. Just give it a few more years. But like Jay Fry said, we want faster and louder. They're doing the opposite of NASCAR. NASCAR seems like they're taking more horsepower away and adding downforce. IndyCar, they're adding horsepower and taking away downforce. They're doing the complete opposite. And that's what race car drivers want. You've got more and more drivers wanting to come here, wanting to race here. There's a reason for that. So that's because of those guys. So yeah, I thank you for the comment, but I will have to disagree in the fact I do. Mark Miles has got a vision and he's working hard. There's a lot of things we talked about behind the scenes with him directly that he shared. He's been open about that. Obviously, those are confidential discussions. I'm not going to share with the vision and planning and stuff like that behind the scenes that he has done a great job on, and I applaud him for that.
All right. Now, in the last few minutes, we want to preview this Road America race, 55 laps, no Rinus VeeKay. So he's out after a cycling injury, broke his clavicle, and, of course, Rosenqvist with the big injury last week after the crash is out too.
Yeah, and Rosenqvist, it seems they're obviously not saying what his injury is. He's okay. He was even tweeted a picture or Instagram, something about that. The next Monday, it would have been, he was at lunch with Marcus Ericsson and their girlfriends or wives, and he looked fine. He looked good. He's moving around. I think it's just more of he's just not clear to drive. I expect, let's be honest, he missed one race. He's not going to win the championship. It's that hard. You're missing this weekend. You got a week off next week. I could see maybe, hey, he's not clear. Let's give him another week. You've got Mid-Ohio, and then you got a whole month off. So you could slowly bring him back. VeeKay, that's a dagger. He was running good this year. He was tied for 5th in points. He already won a race. He was a top 10 machine. He was right there in the hunt, and missing this race, it's going to take him out, obviously, of a championship. There's no way you can miss a race in IndyCar and not win a championship. So he was the hot young driver. It was going to be interesting where he factored into the silly season thing. Does he stay? Where does he end up? He was that good. So it's sad to see. Hopefully he can get well soon, be back at Mid-Ohio. A caller, you got to think, he broke up here, and all these G-forces, they've got no power steering. That'd be a hard thing to maneuver around with a broken clavicle. So he's out. But a big story is Kevin Magnussen is filling in for Rosenqvist, who's an F1 driver. He got let go from Haas F1, which I think we could see how bad that team is in F1. Him and Grosjean were teammates over there, and now they're both in this IndyCar race. I mean, you got 2 F1 guys last year, Jimmy Johnson, Scott McLaughlin, and a NASCAR driver, Cody Ware, is running the IndyCar race at Road America. I mean, these are your rookies. That's your rookie class. So it's like, that's why this field is so difficult to win in. I mean, those are your rookies, a 7-time NASCAR champion, a Supercars champion with Penske, 2 F1 guys, and a NASCAR driver. There's your 5 rookies. Good luck.
Yeah, right. All right. So now to update, there have been 7 different drivers winning 8 IndyCar Series events this season. Ward became the only driver to win it a second time when he won one of the races last week. That's 9 different winners in the last 10 overall. The racetrack here at Road America, they had a break. Matter of fact, Bourdais, this is tricky because you have to keep in mind that, because I was screwed up a little bit, because if you just look at when they came back in 2016, you would go, well, Bourdais is no top 10s in 3 races, but you have to remember that he won way back, I think, was it 2007?
Yeah, he ran the last
race
before
the break. Yeah. Okay.
And a little context to that too. The reason the break, when IndyCar split in '95, CART, which the main big team went one way, yes. IRL went another. IRL was strictly ovals. Road America followed over here. And then as the years went on, they were dwindling. They were diminishing. They unified in 2008 back to what we got now today. And they were still trying to figure the tracks out, what's going to transfer over. That was just the casualty of that. And as the crowds were dwindling, Milwaukee was still around. You don't want to take from that market. NASCAR started going to Road America on the Xfinity side. It just threw the afterburner. But people were always wondering, we want to go back. We want to go back. It's a classic track. Mark Miles and Jay Fry, that's why they brought it back. They heard you. Like, all right, well, if you want it back, we'll try it out. And if you want it on the future, show up. Come show up. Well, they've had huge crowds there since it's been returned. It's been one of the more popular races. So, and you got to look to that era that Bourdais was dominating, and that field was not very good. There wasn't that many. So he was like the Kyle Busch going back to the Xfinity Series type. He was that good against guys like that. So, yeah, now that it's more pure now, but again, yes, he hasn't had a lot of top 10s, but you also, which we'll get into, look at the odds, and it's like, well, he knows his way around the track. It hasn't changed.
Yes. Yeah, and we're always going to talk about the sleepers before the odds change, and Bourdais 30-1. The other two that I think, well, actually, I'd say there's probably my top 3 sleepers would be Graham Rahal. At 16-1, Ryan Hunter-Reay at 35-1, and I think we could just put Sato in as a sleeper every race.
Absolutely, yeah. 40 to 1. He's still, he's like the William Byron of IndyCar. Like, what's this guy need to do? Like 40 to 1, and he's got 4 straight top 10s. Yeah. One of them was a 4th, and he's teammates to Rahal, who this is arguably one of his better tracks. So it's like, that's baffling. I would throw in too, which I thought these odds were kind of baffling. I don't know if they're just looking at the season, and he's had some bad luck, but James Hinchcliffe, Andretti Autosport, big team. Andretti's pretty good at these tracks. 80-1 right now. 80-1.
2 top 10s out of 4 races.
Yep. And they're right in a row. It's like he was 10th and 7th last year. So, yeah, I would – not last year, the year before last. He didn't race last year in this race. He's – yeah, why would you not? He likes this track, and you can get him for 80-1. And let's be honest, a lot of Andretti struggles. Yeah, it seems like they're missing a little bit this year, but it's luck too. I mean, like we talked about Rossi. I mean, he was there, and he should have won and got taken out because of a caution. He was now flipped the field, and in the next race he had a wing damage, front wing. I mean, it happens, but you can get an Andretti guy right now for 80-1, or my guy Ed Jones, who remember I talked about him last week, and he qualified in the second row for the first race. He's 66-1. He's got 2 top 10s and 3 tries too.
Yes.
So these are some of the guys you might want to capitalize on. And Rossi, once again, is 10-1 to start the week off. He won. He led 54 or 55 laps 2 years ago. This is the last place that he won. And he was on the podium in the second race last year. And right now you can get him at 10-1.
Yeah.
So if he qualifies up front like he's been doing, like he did last weekend at both races, that 10-1 may become 6-1 or 7-1 like that. So
it's possible. I mean, last week, what did he qualify? Like 7th or something, or 6th or 8th?
7th on the second day, and then he was the second the first day.
Second the first day.
Yeah, he was on the front row.
Okay. What did his odds change to? Because I know that I grabbed him at 10-1 before the race. I forget what it.
Yeah, I think he went to like 7-1.
That's not too bad.
Something like that. No, for a front row guy.
Yeah, and that's because you have so many other drivers ahead of him. Dixon, again, is the favorite, but now it's a 3-man favorite. It's Dixon, Award, and Newgarden, all at 4-1. Dixon has the 2 wins, including last year, even though he didn't dominate either of the races. Well, he led 24 laps in 2017, but Award, when he was second last year from the pole, led 43 of 55 laps. And Newgarden won from the pole in 2018, leading 53 of 55 laps.
Yeah, that's why I was saying the trends this race, and it'll be in my burning questions tomorrow about the domination that this race
that's
can
not good.
because of the track. It's like I said, there's not a lot of cautions, so there's not a lot of strategy. Like you just mentioned, Newgarden, Pato last year, and I said Rossi. There's a tendency to lead a lot of laps here and dominate. So qualifying is going to be that much bigger of a key this weekend. So that'll be interesting to see what the odds change to after qualifying, because qualifying's earlier today. It's not like it's a 1 day qualifying then race. It's like I don't remember. It's afternoon, Saturday afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Early Saturday afternoon. So we'll know the results. So they'll update, I think, even more the odds for Sunday. So that's why you kind of want to grab some of these sleepers now, because if they qualify up front, the starting spots here since we came back: first, fifth, first, second, ninth, seventh. And we've seen what the season starting. As long as a fluke caution doesn't come out, you can't plan for that. Like I said, the winner's probably coming from the Firestone Fast Six. That's so. If any of these guys make the Fast Six, that's probably your winner is coming from there. So grab maybe some of these guys now before that happens, because I don't know if Pato's odds or Newgarden and Dixon's odds will change much, being as low as they are. I mean, how much lower can you really get other than 3-1 or 2-1? But some of these other guys may really drop. They're leaving a lot of room for them to drop for after qualifying. So, you might want to capitalize on some of these longer shots now.
Herta has never led a lap here, and he was on the pole in 2019 and didn't lead a lap. So he's 7-1, but of course he won the street race this year and is the only driver to win from the pole this year. So once again, the pole is maybe not exactly where you want your driver to be.
It's a weird stat, yes. But I think I've only had 3 in the last 20 some races that the pole winners actually won.
Palou won the road course earlier this year, so he's 8-1. He's had a couple of good results last year, so he could be somebody.
Great value, great value
on him. Will Power's got 3 podiums and 6. He won the 2016 race from the pole, led 46 of 55 laps, and was also second in 2 of his last 3 races.
Yeah, he's another good one at 8-1 that he always qualifies well. Just lately he's been in a lull that it just depends with him where he's going to qualify. 8-1 is good to take, but you also got to look, like I said, the NASCAR show yesterday about Penske expanding to 4 cars this year. They've not won. They have not won a race. So do you trust if he qualifies 9th, 10th, 11th? Do you really think he's going to win the race from there? Those odds may even drop a little bit if he does. So 8-1 scares me a little bit with him right now. If he was 10-1, 11-1, 12-1, somewhere in that range, I'd probably take him. 8-1, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach with him.
I mentioned Rossi at 10-1, dominated in 2019 for his win. Pagenaud doesn't have a podium, so he's not somebody to take this week.
What's weird is he's confident. I talked to him yesterday, and he said he feels like they're there. I mean, he's got 3 top 10s his last 5. Last year was not very good. He's 12th or 13th, but he's been running better and better. He's been putting himself near the top 5. He's been top 10 almost every race this season. So we've seen fluky things happen. You got to put yourself there, and he's been there. So if there was fantasy IndyCar leagues out there, top 10, which I know there are on the IndyCar website, he's a great guy for fantasy play because he's going to probably get you a top 10. What does he need to do to close that gap? He thinks they're there. It's just luck. Okay. So for 16-1, getting a Penske guy, kind of like we talked about NASCAR side, you get Logano or Keselowski at 16-1, you jump all over it. You might want to just throw a few bucks his way right now because, again, if he qualifies well, that 16-1, will probably go down to 8-1. He might be more near Will Power level if he qualifies there, and you're giving away half your money by not taking him right now.
Ericsson, he finally won, but to expect him to win again is just the odds are just too high for me to calculate. So I wouldn't go there so quickly. He does have a couple of top 10s, including the 4th place finish last year.
Yeah, and he's one you can wait and see. He's not a great qualifier, so I don't expect him to necessarily qualify in the Fast 6.
Okay.
So if he gets in a top 10, I don't know if his odds will change much, being
Probably
at 20
not.
to 1 right now. And he's got 2 top 10s. So he's another one I put in the wait and see. Let's see what he does in practice. Let's see what he does in qualifying. If those really drop, steer clear. But if he stays around that 20 to 1 and he looks good over the weekend, I'd go with it just because of he's pretty good. These natural road courses are they're great for F1 drivers because that's what they grew up racing on overseas. So that's why his style, 2 top 10s at 3 tries, it fits him well.
And Grosjean is also 20 to 1. This will be his first attempt at this track, but of course he won the Indy road course race not too long ago, and he was
won
pretty
the
good
pole.
last
He
week.
was second there. Yeah, he was second at the road course race, but he did win the pole, and he also just tested here a few weeks ago. So again, 22 to 1. It's risky because he's never raced here. A test is different because there's nobody else on the track with you, but you're also getting him at 22 to 1, and he's got the capability to qualify well. So what does that become? So that's a tricky one. He was on the pole for the Indy road course, similar natural road course track. He qualified really well in Detroit. He's never seen that place before.
Maybe he wouldn't be a bad idea.
He's for 22 to 1. It wouldn't be, like you said, a bad idea just to throw some bucks his way right now because he's running well. I know last weekend was a couple issues, but as towards the end of the race, he's never seen the track before. He just saw this track. He just tested here, and it fits his style. So yeah, it'd be one. Yeah, for 22 to 1, I don't think it would hurt.
All right. Anyone else you want to mention before we go?
No, not that we haven't already mentioned. So I think those are your guys for right now. And then we'll see what practice. You got one session tomorrow, one morning session Saturday, qualify Saturday afternoon, a warm-up late Saturday afternoon, and then we'll race on Sunday.
And then again, that's cool that we'll have this race will be first, and then we'll have the NASCAR race follow up.
Yep, NBCSN. You don't need to change the station. Just turn it on Sunday morning and hope there's no infomercials, which I don't think there will be on SN. No. And then full racing day.
And then, of course, you can check out racereviewonline.net as Eric is going to have full coverage of the race, including, of course, following the race. But check that out. You can check it out now. Got a bunch of stories up already. And again, as usual, we'll have press conferences all lined up for you. When we get them, we will post them. So thanks, Eric. We'll talk to you again next. Actually, there's no race next week. When's the next race?
Nope. The week after.
Okay, so we'll be back in 2
weeks.
weeks.
Yep.
But you and I will be back early next week for our first silly season NASCAR show.
Yep, kind of what we were hinting about yesterday.
Yes.
We'll recap some of that and talk about in general. This first show is just explain silly season, what's at stake, charters, that type of thing. Talk about that next week.
Appreciate it, Eric. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.